Man, it's been a long time since I made a video about Hytale, but we did come back to it. I said I was going to, and we're finally coming back to it. If, like me, you were waiting for controller support to be added to the game, well, good news, it is finally here. In fact, it arrived back in May, 3 months ago, in patch update 5, and I'm only just now realizing it. But, you know, better late than never. According to the update notes on the website, controller support has arrived in its first iteration, which suggests that there's going to be ongoing tuning that will happen as the Hytale team receives feedback. That said, I have now played roughly 2 hours of Hytale on my M2 MacBook Air using an Xbox wireless controller via Bluetooth, and I can confirm that it does work flawlessly. However, there are a few things to note. Firstly, when I loaded into Hytale and attempted to use my Xbox controller for the first time, I found that I could look around with my character, but I was unable to move him. In fact, aside from looking around with the right stick on the controller, none of the other buttons were functioning. After jumping into the settings, though, I discovered why. The development team added a new gamepad column underneath the Controls tab in the settings for button mapping, and at least for me, all of these key bindings were empty. The simple solution was to navigate to the bottom of the screen and click the Reset to Defaults button, but it's strange that these were not already populated when I first jumped in. But clicking that Reset to Defaults button will then populate all the gamepad key bindings correctly. So if you are using a controller for the first time, and things are not working as expected, navigate into those settings and check that Controls tab. Ensure the key bindings are set up correctly. Beyond adjusting the key bindings, within the settings, underneath the Gamepad tab, there are a few other controller settings that you can adjust, if you so choose. There is a vibration on-off setting, a vibration strength setting, a setting to change the button icons in the HUD from Xbox to PlayStation or PlayStation to Xbox, and a trigger button dead zone sensitivity setting. There's also a movement stick dead zone sensitivity setting, which presumably would help if your controller suffers from some level of left stick drift. There are also several look settings, including inverting the vertical look sensitivity, and a dead zone sensitivity setting, which again would help if your controller suffers from some level of right stick drift. I left all of these settings at their defaults. As already mentioned, I have now played Hytale with my Xbox wireless controller on my M2 MacBook Air for about 2 hours, I would say, and the controller has been working flawlessly. Moving around the world, interacting with items, and doing combat all works as expected. Navigating the menus with the controller, however, may take some getting used to. In some games, navigating around the menus with a controller is done via a cursor. As you move the sticks on the controller, a cursor moves around the display to allow you to interact with items on the screen. Hytale does not take this approach. Instead, navigating around the menus with the controller involves stepwise progression through the selectable items. So, as you click the directional pad or you move the stick, the selected item on screen will just move about. There is no free roaming cursor. In many ways, this is a lot better than the cursor approach, as it makes it a lot easier to ensure you're selecting the right item. However, it does take a while to navigate around the screen if there are a lot of selectable items. For example, when you're in your inventory. To compensate for this, the development team added a switch panel option, which is performed with the left and right bumpers on my Xbox controller. I'm assuming this is the same on a PlayStation controller. When the left or right bumper is pressed while in the inventory, the selection will immediately jump from panel to panel, instead of you having to move the selection several times to get to each of those individual panels. This allows you to quickly jump between the character panel, the crafting panel, and the inventory panel, but it does take a little bit of getting used to. This method also does not help with the actual inventory panel in the inventory menu, where there are many selectable spots within the grid. So you're still going to be forced to click the directional pad or push the stick several times in order to navigate around. Still, I am very satisfied with this menu navigation solution for controllers, and I think I greatly prefer it to the cursor method. Just as a reminder, Hytale is still in development, but it is available for purchase and download via early access on the official Hytale website. The game is not yet available on Steam or other storefronts, so for now, you do need to purchase it directly through the official Hytale website. The game starts at around $20 US, I believe, with more expensive editions available that include additional cosmetics, including the Supporter Edition and the Cursebreaker Edition. The game is playable natively on Windows, Linux, and Macs with an M1 chip or newer, and console versions are something that the development team still plans to explore later on, I believe. Speaking to how the game performs on Mac, specifically my M2 MacBook Air, it's great. I keep the graphics settings essentially as low as they will go, including the graphics preset, the draw distance, and the render scale, and the game gets a nearly locked 60 FPS with occasional drops into the 50s. But keep in mind that I am also recording via OBS while playing Hytale, which does add a bit more strain to the GPU and likely impacts game performance to a small degree. Even with the graphics settings set to their lowest options, the game still looks great though, thanks to it being a Minecraft-style game consisting of simple shapes and colors. The adventure mode in Hytale is still in development and not yet available if you purchase the game now. As someone who plays games purely for their story and progression, I am most excited for the adventure mode. It will function like a fully fledged RPG, is my understanding. It will feature a narrative, NPC factions, a structured questing system, and various progression milestones. Once it launches, it will be available to play entirely single player or via online co-op. The development team just recently posted some of the work that they have been doing for Chapter 1, which I encourage you to look at. In fact, I encourage you to keep an eye on the Hytale website in general, because the team has been very active in sharing updates. The passion that the Hytale team has for the game is ultimately what convinced me to purchase early access, knowing full well that the adventure mode was not yet available. Though I am not interested in sandbox building and exploration games, I'm still having a lot of fun just wandering around the world. I think what the team is building here is incredible, and I'm really excited to see where they take it. If you want to see more largely unedited Hytale gameplay running natively on an M2 MacBook Air, I am posting those full recordings on the archive channel. But that's it for this one. See you in the next.